If you are looking for a job, you need to use AI.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So basically, there are different types of tools. There is the LLMs like Chat GPT or Copilot. Chat GPT is an awesome tool in order to optimize your CV.
How do I write a cover letter that actually reflects my personality, what I'm looking for, and not just something that maybe the recruiters will read and they will say, oh, this is made by Chat GPT.
With good methods and tools and why not training, there's many more opportunities than risks.
Many people are actually feeling, oh, this AI is complicating everything. All of these that we have been talking about, for some people might be overwhelming.
If you understand correctly the human-machine relationship, then you feel more fascination than fear.
Hi everyone, welcome to Sci-Tech Suisse, a podcast about AI, technology and lifestyle. My name is Margarita Silva and I'm your host today to talk about a very interesting topic that concerns all of us, which is how to use AI in our job search, how to look for a job with the use of AI. And of course, with the latest developments of AI in the last years, this has become basically a very important skill. If you are looking for a job, you need to use AI. Otherwise, you might be a little behind in comparison to those who are actually using AI to find a job. And to talk about this topic precisely, we have today Marco Barber. He is an expert in Gen Trainer and founder of Infinitum AI consultant in AI integration. But most importantly, he is an expert on giving workshops on how to find a job with the help of AI. Hello, Marco.
Hello, Margarita. Very nice to see you.
Yes, well, same. It's very interesting because I met you precisely in one of your workshops, which was very interesting and I really boosted my job search. And actually, there are so many tools and so many developments in terms of AI when we talk about job search. And I think this is why this topic is so relevant. So if you are watching this and you actually have no idea how to use AI on your job search, you should definitely stay. So Marco, first of all, before jumping into the topic, I would like you to explain a little bit, what is it exactly that you do? What is your job?
Okay, thanks for the invitation, Margarita. Very happy to be here. So basically, my job is mainly to be a trainer of users to use Gen AI in multiple use cases. One of them, finding a job. I've been doing every week workshops for job seekers in a program sponsored and financed by the state of Geneva. And basically, I provide them all the tools and methods to maximize the usability of Gen AI to reach their objective.
Which is also what you were telling me. Basically, you work with the companies as well to train their staff so they can use AI to boost their productivity and their performance, right?
Exactly. I'm also a trainer in enterprises, in companies of different enterprise functions, like, for example, human resources or marketing and communications. So basically using Gen AI to optimize operations, as you said, efficiency, but also strategy.
Mm-hmm. Well, perfect. So now that we know exactly what you do, I think we can jump into the topic. And the first thing I would like to ask you is, as a general view of the topic, is what sort of stuff can we achieve with AI in terms of job search?
Well, many things. And one of the exercises that we start with these job search Gen AI workshops is basically structuring into main steps all this process of a job search. And it starts with the strategy. and also the long-term view. So basically the whole career management. So I would say this is an exercise to be done, of course, when you're jobless, looking for a job, but always good to do. Also, even better when you have a job, actually, to do these things. So the first activity is indeed the strategy. So we fix the objectives, what kind of job you're targeting, and also the timelines, how quickly you want this job, or if you have time to find it. And then you can do also take it's a very good time to do a personality evaluation, skills evaluation. Then you can do a positioning and a personal branding and a training plan. So that's basically what you can one of the first steps in your job hunt. Then I would say a second is proactive prospecting. So that can be done in networking sites and events. By sites, I mean co-working places is awesome to network. So that's physical networking, yes. But most of the contacts and opportunities still come that way. But coming back to digital, well, you can do networking and social selling on LinkedIn. And for that, you can do with the Gen AI a communication plan, advocating for a cause or for a project. Finally, of course, you can do the search for job offers with your Gen AI and specific advanced searching tools. And then when you have identified the jobs that offerings that interest you, of course, answering to them, which means updating your CV, updating and aligning your CV, a cover letter, and preparing for the interviews and negotiations. That's most of the things you can do, but there are others.
Okay, so I guess one of the things that might catch the interest of most people might be that last part that you mentioned, is how I can tailor my CV with the help of AI, right? So do you use Chat GPT or any other tools of this sort to tailor the CV, and how can we use it in that sense?
Yes, Chat GPT is an awesome LLM, large language model, so tool in order to optimize your CV. And how to do it is basically prompting. A prompt is basically a question or an instruction that you give your LLM, your conversational agent. And there's an art and a technique of prompting. And you need to provide, for example, the action that you want the LLM to do. You have to provide, you need to be specific. You have to provide context. You have to provide a tone, style that you want the content to be generated. You can actually also you give an identity to your LLM. So you basically transform it, for example, in a job search expert consultant to work with. That's handy. And so you do all these things, prompting. And then, for example, the action in this case is going to be to update your CV to a specific job offering. So it's going to do the match. And finally, I would add a technique that I like is to basically work section after section.
Okay, so in that sense, if in a practical way, how could this prompt sound? For example, if you were asking ChatGPT to adjust it, how would you tell it? Obviously, in a very
you wanted to do now
way.
the prompt live. Okay, we can do that. So, for example, I actually follow a prompting framework. It's called, that I like very much. It's called Active, because it's mnemotechnic. It comes from the French, active. It basically means active. So A, it's the action. So I say, okay, your action, ChatGPT, is going to be to update my CV to match this job offering. So Then there is the C, the context. So you explain that basically you are a candidate to this job, and obviously you want to reach an interview for the job.
And you can explain, for example, where you are located, how many years of experience you have, something like a bit general about your
Yeah,
profile, right?
yes, you can provide additional contextual information in the prompt, but those examples you gave, I think they should be provided in your CV. But everything that is not included in your CV, of course, you explain it to your LLM. So then, for the tone, for example, we are in ACT, the tone. So the tone of voice, for example, you want your CV to be updated. Well, you can say aligned with a specific sector, or aligned with actually the tone of voice of the organization, of the potential employer, right? So you can ask also Chat GPT to go scan the web of this employer to basically replicate or adopt a tone of voice in your CV that is welcome. Then identity, in active identity, is the identity you are transforming ChatGPT into, so it will answer as an expert in that field. And finally, the format is basically how you want your CV, because if you don't say anything, it will take an initiative. The LLM will decide if to give you a CV of 1 page or 3 pages or whatever. Generally, it does it based on trends and best practices, but yeah, it's better to specify it basically, so the user steers the generated out content.
So basically, one of the first tips on these practices is to be as specific as possible. The more specific we are, the more details we give about ourselves, about our experience, etc., the more accurate the result will be, right?
Yeah, that's an important tip. There are 10 of them, like the 10 commandments that OpenAI actually suggests. So one is a specific, also one is being clear, so clarity, not vague. Another one is, for example, to provide examples. You can give if there's another CV that you like, you can actually attach it and upload it and tell your LLM to inspire from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, well, very good. So now let's talk about the cover letter, because you can also do the same with your cover letter. And one of the things, because I've been talking about this topic with many people who are looking for jobs, and one of the main concerns is how do I write a cover letter that actually reflects my personality, what I'm looking for, and not just something that maybe the recruiters will read and they will say, oh, this is made by Chat GPT. Forget it and next, move on, right? So how do I make it actually personalized and aligned with my profile?
Okay, I like very much your question, because that's the main objective when using Gen AI, for the user to be the author of the contents and not delegate that or have that stolen by the Gen AI. The user must stay in the driving seat, right?
Yeah.
So the objective is indeed, qualitative contents is basically a differentiated content, not like anyone can do with the Gen AI, but an authentic content that will have your audience resonate with it, right? And that also indeed will show your identity, as you said.
Yeah.
And also, last but not least, is also to answer to your customer needs. Not just your customer, your potential employer, sorry. So basically, you need to analyze indeed the job offering and see, okay, what are they really looking for? What is the priorities in terms of skills, of profiles they're looking for, also in terms of culture or personality match, right? And so you're going to write about all this in your cover letter. Just a comment, it's true that more and more employers have been putting less importance to the cover letter, and sometimes users are also a little bit annoyed to write it. But actually now, thanks to Gen AI, it becomes more fun, I think, because it's less time consuming in a way. And but there's still an intellectual exercise indeed to do a very attractive cover letter with added value. Added value means it's not a repetition to your CV, but basically it brings out all this information that is not in your CV, right? So that's what explaining a little bit your journey, why you think you're a good match for this job, and also maybe other some soft skills, or also trying to demonstrate that you're the candidate for that job indeed.
Actually, since I was in your workshop, I've been trying this,
Mhm.
and one of the things I do is precisely, of course, I upload my CV, which is the first step to tailor the CV. So then afterwards, when I'm doing my cover letter, I write, and I'm very specific, and I say, okay, I want 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs. In the first paragraph, I want you to talk about why the vision of this company is aligned with what I'm looking for. In the second paragraph, I would like you to explain why my experience is relevant for the job. In the third paragraph, I want you to simplify why I would be a good fit with the company. And then in the last one, I just want you to say thank you. And if you want to look into it in more detail, we can set up an interview, blah, blah, blah. The general things. And that has worked really well for me.
Fantastic. That's music to my ears, because indeed it sounds like you're very much in the driving seat
Yeah.
when using your Gen AI, and you tell it how you want your cover letter to be structured. So you have chosen 3 4 sections. You tell it what needs to be the focus of each section. So you're doing the F of the active, because again, we can use the framework active in whatever task, for example a cover letter.
Yeah.
And so you're doing that very well. Also because you apparently you being in the job search, so you knew at this stage what type of structure or cover letter method you preferred, so you were instructing. But if you don't know yet, you can also, so basically if you don't have the expertise, or you don't know what specifically you want, you can also do some self education with the Gen AI. So basically you can tell the Gen AI that you need to do a cover letter, and you can ask, you're going to break the process into small steps, and that is actually called chain of thought method. And that's key also to steer your Gen AI. And basically you're going to say, okay, I need to write a cover letter, so what types of methods are the best alternatives, are the best practices, for example. And it will give you a few alternatives, and you can ask it, okay, so you can ask an advice as well for this type of company, with this type of culture, for this type of role in Switzerland, and so forth. So what do you think is the best type of structure for a cover letter? And it will actually advise to you, and then you can also adopt the best one.
Well, that's another good tip. So it's basically every time we're not really sure how to ask or how to give the instruction to Chat GPT or to Copilot, whatever platform we're using, we can also ask it for directions. What would you ask from me to do the best cover letter? Or what would you suggest would be the things I need to include in my CV for this job post? This kind of things in advance of actually doing the process of tailoring the CV and the cover letter. Okay, that's very interesting. Now I would like to ask you also, because, and you mentioned this before, LinkedIn is a very important tool nowadays. And many recruiters are actually going to LinkedIn after checking your CV to double check that things match, and also check more of, for example, your posts, how many posts you have, or how are you sharing your experience with this community, etc. So how can we use AI, for example, to improve our LinkedIn profile?
Okay, you can choose. We've talked about methods. Let's talk also a little bit about tools. So basically, there are different type of tools. There is the LLMs like Chat GPT or Copilot. We mentioned them, and then there is tools that are specific to some functionalities, right? Like creating images or videos or optimizing, sorry, your LinkedIn. One of them that I like very much is called Career Flow. It has various functionalities. One of them is the LinkedIn Profile Optimizer. Okay, so it will basically give you as a quality score of your LinkedIn profile, how it is complete, so the percentage of completion and also the quality, and it will tell you section by section how complete you are or not and how good you are, and it will give you recommendations. So that's an excellent thing to follow, and then an excellent tool. It has other functionalities that are fantastic. For example, a Kanban for job search project management. Basically, you can very easily save the job offerings you identify and then click and drag them from column to column, like in Trello, like from identify to CV submitted to interview or rejected and so forth. So that's very interesting. Coming back to LinkedIn, as a tool, as a platform in itself, it was, of course, and it is very disruptive. So if any listener of this podcast is not on LinkedIn, that's rare nowadays, or does not have their profile up to date and optimized, they should. And things that are important, and of course, first the visuals, the image, the banner, the synopsis of who you are, what you want, what your service, your value is, and then your experience, of course, how each and every job is basically described. There's a method that is good, that employers like it, which is the STAR method. Well, that's more maybe for the CV, but you can also use it in your LinkedIn. Basically, situation, task, action, and results you had in each. So in a factual way. But basically, LinkedIn is what is important in LinkedIn is also the keywords that you use, because there's some SEO. So basically, you can take your CV, sorry, your LinkedIn page, same as your CV as well, and go to a keyword cloud generator. There's many of them, free ones online available. You can search for them in Google, and then you put your LinkedIn page URL or your CV, and it will give up a cloud of keywords. And so you can see which ones stand out from SEO point of view, and you will see if you will be found or not by the keywords that really define you, right? That's first to be found, for visibility. But then there is also the recruiters use automated recruiting solutions called ATS, application tracking systems. And those applications tracking systems, they also have filters by keywords. So it's really important that both in your LinkedIn and your CV, you have the right keywords. And finally, in LinkedIn, indeed, is not only to be found, but also to find. To find interesting organizations and persons within these organizations you want to be in contact with, because they are potential recruiters. So you can actually contact them proactively, just follow them so you see their posts, or contact them like invitation to connect. And there's, in that invitation to connect, there is a functionality that is adding a note. You have a few lines, space or room, in order to add a note. So if you do it smartly, the person will connect. And from that point, this prospection becomes more like a community management or something like this, because this person is now a reader of your publications and vice versa. So gently but surely over time, you will get to know, you will be in contact. And then it's like community management. So that's a networking. It's like a networking online.
Yeah. And then now that you have been mentioning recruiters, this is something else I wanted to address with you is how are companies using AI to actually recruit people? And what do we need to know in order to adapt to that reality? To know that nowadays, the likelihood that there is a robot reading our CV and doing the first filter rather than a person, a human resources employee who's going to read our CV that was in the past. Nowadays, more and more companies have actually filtering system that uses AI to select your CV to the next steps and then be seen by a human, but that comes afterwards. So how can we be prepared for that and tailor our CV in that sense?
Mm-hmm. So basically, myself, I help and I work both with job seekers, so candidates, as well as with companies and HR and recruiters in optimizing this process. And indeed, what they do first is automation. So they automate the first step of the process, which is the search, the identification of profiles, the filtering. So we mentioned that we need to be keyword, we need to have the right keywords, we need to be ATS friendly. And ATS friendly, it needs keywords, but it's also about readability. Readability. Your CV needs to be in a form, in a structure that will be easy for the ATS to read. If not, they will not consider you or consider you in.
Which is why it's recommended that we don't have a very fancy designed CVs and we go back to the past where we were just having a Word CV with letters and not maybe not that fancy, but that it's easier for the AI to read, right?
Exactly. Because of some tools like Canva, for example, some visual and graphism tools like Canva, we started doing very, very fancy CVs, but sometimes a little bit too complicated for the ATS. You can have two CVs, one that is visually appealing because you know that's a human that's going to read it, but then another one much more simple, like text only. Mine is just text only
Yeah.
with with the right keywords and contents.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to finish on what to do and how to do it, basically, my recommendation to a candidate would be to mirror what companies do. Basically, they, for example, they automate, and I propose to the candidates also to automate as much as possible the process. And for example, companies they look at a lot of different candidates. Well, I recommend candidates to do the same, to look at a lot of companies and also submit a lot of candidacies. And companies they work in a project mode for recruitment, and I recommend to the candidates to do the same. Really structure a project in place rather than being opportunistic and disorganized. Then I also recommend to candidates, while looking for a permanent job, why not actually also work in an independent basis in contracts, because now with automation, for example, with Gen AI, we can do so many more things. So why not also doing independent mandates, contracts, while you're looking for a job, because this shows that you're a doer and you continue learning a lot of things. And finally, companies innovate. We can also innovate right now with Gen AI. That's another opportunity for the candidates, for the people.
Yeah. And actually, in that sense, and also to conclude our episode, that it's getting to its final, is I would like to ask you, because right now there's a lot of fear from people about AI, right? Like there is a lot of resistance. Many people are actually feeling, oh, this AI is complicating everything. For example, the job search. all of these that we have been talking about, for some people might be overwhelming. They might be saying, oh, but now in the past, I just had to write a CV and take it to the office or send it through post and that's it. And now we have all these fancy tools, all this, technology. And some people might find it complicated, right? So the question would be, what should be our focus from now on in terms of AI? Should be afraid of it? Should we focus on how to use it in our favor? What is your personal intake in this?
Exactly. We should use it into our favor, as you said. In other words, is basically the user needs to keep the control of this tool, basically, and which means basically not delegating the tasks to it and just delivering the contents, the generic contents, very impressive, but still generic, not differentiated, not authentic, that it has created. It cannot be that way. So basically, the user needs to stay the master, and the users need to understand they are not at the same level that the Gen AI. Basically, the users, they are to provide context for the Gen AI to generate the content. So there is the context and there is the content, so not at the same level, two different levels. And finally, also, the Gen AI provides functionality and the user provides vitality. Functionality, vitality. It's at two different levels, once again. And what do I mean by vitality? It's the spark, but it's also the real life experience, okay, that ones need to know that this content will basically can be projected to real life and will resonate with our audiences. Okay, so if you understand correctly the human machine relationship, then you feel more fascination than fear, because there's so many possibilities. So it's a great new area, but of course there's a lot to learn. There's a method, a usability method of all these things. There's a lot of we have never produced so many contents as now, so we need new tools as well. Flying files on Word or Excel in the computer window files it's obsolete. So we need new tools, like, for example, Notion is an interesting tool to structure and save the so many contents that we will be producing, and structure a project, for example, the job search project. Yeah, and then finally, it's true that there has never been so much competition. It's normal in every discipline. There is more and more, and there is, but yeah, with good methods and tools and why not training, there's many more opportunities than risks, I think.
Yeah, basically what we can say is that the more we train ourselves in the use of AI, the more opportunities we will have to compete against it rather than be, scared about it. Well, Marco, thank you very much for all your insights. I think it's a very interesting topic and we could stay here for the whole day talking about it. But yes, it was very interesting. And thank you, all of you, for being with us today. Please do subscribe to our podcast and also follow us on all the social media. We are going to leave you the links here in the description. And thank you for being today with us. We hope that this was useful for you. And please tell us in the comments if you have used AI in your job search or not, and if you found it interesting, useful, or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. Bye.
Bye.